Hello, everybody. I'm on my YouTube channel. You already know who I am. I'm joined by familiar faces once again for a special midweek fan voice. Obviously, this is on the back of that United defeat, an unfortunate United defeat, I've got to say, and obviously previewing the Leeds United game. Let's talk about this Manchester United game, lads, because let's be honest, for 60 minutes, I thought West Ham were incredibly impressive, and even our press on Manchester United, we looked well suited. United weren't hurting us at all.
Yeah, I mean, it gave Moyes the easiest post-match interview of all time, where he just go, "Oh, you don't take your chances," which can hide behind the cracks that United changed something and it worked, while we waited until after we were behind to change things, which, as I've said time and time again on this show, will cost us points. Thank you, Dithering Dave.
You weren't happy. Dennis was one of the people that was absolutely raging on Saturday. I mean, do you think it's because Moyes didn't bring on subs earlier, or do you think it's because of the way that West Ham, obviously we missed a lot of chances, and I think obviously we thought we could go and get that second goal, and in that kind of pursuit of it, we then started to get picked off. Do you look at David Moyes and say possibly his in-game management for that type of game, he should have maybe sat back a little bit and tried to be a bit more defensive against Fernandes and Rashford?
No, I think we had, in that first hour, mate, as you said, we had more than enough chances to win 3 games of football, let alone 1. You know, should have been at least 3-0 up at half-time. You know, and even in the second half, Bowen misses that chance from Soufal's like cross shot. So possibly could Moyes change something when Pogba equalised? Possibly, I'd say. But, you know, as I say, 3-0 up at half-time wouldn't have flattered us whatsoever, and we wouldn't even be having this discussion. So, yeah, possible in-game management, yeah. As I said, when the equaliser, maybe the last half hour we're a bit all over the place. But, yeah, as I say, we should have been well ahead and the game should have been over.
I think that goal done us, if I'm honest. Well, let's talk about the goal and the VAR, because let's be honest, we've seen the replays of it, and it is absolutely shocking. How the lino or the VAR haven't picked it up is crazy. But I think you're right, Bill. I mean, there wasn't anything really for Moyes to change. We were still creating. We were missing a lot. I mean, you know, Allaire, Jared Bowen. It's really disappointing not to get that goal and just sort of see that game out.
Fornal's hit the post first half as well.
Fornal's hit the post. He had a chance from a header as well. Fornal's has a number of chances every game, and he seems to miss them, which is frustrating. But I think once Pogba got that goal, and listen, it's a fantastic goal. We looked a little bit at 6s and 7s, and I feel like we panicked a little bit, and United's pressure kind of told in the end.
Yeah, I mean, there was just so many gaps in the midfield. You know, we should have changed it to, as I said, 100 times, well, maybe not 100, but countless times. Change it so we have 4-0s in the middle, shoring it up, so we could sit back or come back a little bit deeper to give Rice and Soucek some support, but also, you know, be up there on the counter and bring Benrahma out wide. But instead, we take off Bowen, who was destroying Man United, and take it off 4-0 and bring on Lanzini, play Lanzini out wide on the wing. It was just such a strange, not completely insane, but just highly illogical substitution to change a game to play exactly the same formation, but with one player massively out of position playing Lanzini wide right. I didn't get it at the time. I still don't get it now.
Yeah, I mean, because we had a little bet, didn't we, before the game, when are the subs going to be made and who are they? And I said 75th minute, Lanzini, Benrahma, true to form, Moyes come through with it. But the Lanzini one was crazy, mate, because I think, you know, you look at Jared Bowen, particularly his defensive work rate on that right-hand side that we really needed. Down that left for Man United with Rashford, he was having so much joy getting in behind. We needed to kind of shore it up a bit. So, yeah, you are right. And obviously Benrahma come on, and I think he looked lively. He tried to get into those areas and pockets and create, but it was too late, lads, wasn't it? It was a little bit too late. United with some of their counter-attacks. They're blinding. Listen, United are one of the best in the league for me. I just want to come to Jeff, Mark. How did we feel about that game? You know, did you feel like maybe it slipped away from us? We could have changed it, or do you think United and the likes of Rashford and Fernandes were top draw?
Well, you can't have that many chances in the first half of a game and miss them and still go on and win. I mean, it just never happens. You miss that many sitters, you always end up regretting it and going on to lose. So, you know, the first half came to an end with us well on top, but only winning 1-0. And I wasn't sat there confident at half time. I was sat there thinking, we've missed a load of sitters. This is going to go belly up. And then, you know, to my dismay, I see Fernandes and Rashford warming up at half time. So, you know, they're coming straight on. And that was the end of that for us, really, wasn't it? I mean, I think Fernandes, chucking it out there, is probably the best player in the league. The dominance he has on games and the effect he has on his team, probably because the team as a whole is probably a little bit average and below par from where they're expected to be, and he's that much better. His influence on a game is incredible. So seeing them two warming up, Rashford's in a similar sort of bracket for me, and seeing them two warming up, I think that changed the game before it even kicked off in the second half. The in-game management was peculiar. The substitutions were strange. I mean, you'd see Fernandes warming up and change the shape, maybe bring Bowen central, Fornals central, so you've got an extra man in midfield to look after Fernandes. I think I saw he created 5 chances in 45 minutes, which is a phenomenal number. And Rashford was on the end of 2 or 3 of them. So the shape needed to change, and it didn't. And ultimately, I think we were always going to lose that game in the end. And that's why I've not been too stressed about the VAR with the ball going out, because walked off, they'd have gone on and scored anyway. So for me, I've not really given it much thought. I mean, it was the linesman's job anyway, more so than the VAR, and he let us down. And I think ultimately it wouldn't have changed the outcome.
It was just a matter of time before we conceded, especially down that left. And I think, again, Corey, I said this at the time, I don't want to lose 2-1 tonight. I want to lose 3-1 tonight, so we don't have that as an excuse. We don't have that as going on top of his excuses about missing chances. On top of that, he's saying, well, it would have been 1-1 if it hadn't been VAR. I absolutely hate losing games like that because games where we deserve to lose, because we did deserve to lose it based on that second half. Whereas we've got the easy out of an officiated decision. If we deserve to lose, I want us to lose without there being, but maybe that didn't happen. We could have got a draw, which is the story of West Ham's life last couple of years, really. I'm with Jeff. I'm not bothered by the Pogba VAR debacle. There's much more important and pressing things to be pissed off with from Saturday than that.
Look, I think there's a bit of both here. Like, I honestly think for that first half, I thought we were fantastic. I thought the press from the centre backs as well was really good. Probably the best I've seen us press a team. And then when they go 1-0 down, United at 6s and 7s trying to press us, and we're getting so many chances. It is just taking those chances. And I think earlier in the season against Wolves, against Leicester, we were taking those chances. Bowen was clinical, Antonio was clinical. Now all of a sudden it seems we need a few chances to get a goal. And listen, Leeds is one of them games. We're not going to have too many chances. We need to be able to take them, and I hope we can, because something's got to change it in that regard. Moyes has to kind of look at the team and say, listen, lads, you've got to start taking these chances because Premier League's unforgiving.
The missed chances, a game like this has been coming for me for a good couple of weeks. You look at the Sheffield United game, look how many chances there, and we somehow managed to cling on to a 1-0 win. Obviously Fulham as well, we had a few opportunities there, and even Aston Villa as well. So I think that has definitely been coming, and that's ultimately because we haven't actually got a centre forward that really fits Moyes' style of play, or certainly a natural striker that fits his style of play. I think that comes into it. I've seen a stat as well that says that Fornals has now missed apparently 6 big chances this season, which is an alarming figure.
Sounds about right.
I find it strange that I know we've got all the work rate, and we've touched on that quite a lot, and I'm sure that we will throughout the season. But if he's meant to be a sort of an attacking midfield creative player, you'd expect him to have a little bit more composure in front of goal, which obviously so far has been, he's scored a goal and he's got a couple of assists or whatever, but that may have just been a one-off, and that's how it's beginning to look. The VAR situation, I think, is absolutely ridiculous that we brought all this technology in to help us to make these correct decisions, and yet, as you mentioned before, Corey, that the BBC Match of the Day, they had the technology that clearly proved that the ball had gone out of play, and yet someone up in Stockley Park, St George's Park, whatever it's called, hasn't got access to that. I don't understand that. However, I think as both Dennis and Jeff have touched on, although we were obviously clearly the better team for the first 45 minutes, and probably you could argue for the first 10 minutes of the second half, when Man United scored, that goal had probably been coming for a good five minutes or so. It definitely changed the complexion of the game, because I think that our heads dropped And I think some of that was because of the amount of chances that Fernandes had created prior to that, and obviously just the runs that Rashford was making. I mean, I felt a bit sorry for Kufal at right wing back because he didn't have an awful lot of protection, but I don't think that's necessarily Bowen's responsibility. I think you've also got to look at, as we've touched on before, what was going on in the middle of the pitch. There was virtually no pressure on Fernandes. Which, he's not like he's just turned up in the league this season. We've seen him now for this calendar year near enough. We should know what he can do. And that's where I think that maybe a little bit more flexibility in Moyes should have been apparent. I know we did end up going to 4 at the back in the end, but I think that was more by accident, more rather than anything that Moyes was designed himself or anything like that, to be fair.
Yeah, Jeff touched on it with the Fornals thing. I think against Villa, we saw that when it wasn't working and the midfield was becoming too open, we put Fornals in that central position and it stopped those kind of attacks. And I was a little bit surprised to see Moyes not do that against Manchester United. It wasn't just Fernandes, who, don't get me wrong, like Jeff said, one of the best players in the league in terms of his ability just to turn and make some of those passes. But Juan Mata for that third goal, the pass is unbelievable. But the fact he's got that much space to put his head up and find Rashford and take out the entire of the West Ham defensive midfield is concerning. And I thought maybe we should have been a little bit more conservative. We've seen it against the likes of Liverpool and City where we can be defensive. So I was a bit shocked in a way for us not to kind of just settle it down a little bit, soak up a bit of pressure and possibly take a point out of that game.
I think what concerns me as well about the Mata goal is that Moyes has got this reputation for being, his teams are set up to be solid, tough to beat, tough to break down. And yet, I know Man United are, we're not competing with Manchester United. I know that they've been inconsistent and everything in the league and obviously had a very bad result last night in the Champions League. But with the ease that we seem to get pulled apart was really worrying for me. And actually, we had echoes a little bit of the first half against Tottenham that second half with the ease that they just kept getting in behind us time and time again. And it's something that obviously needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. Obviously, initially on the training pitch, but I think it's something that Moyes has got to look at as well in January. With maybe trying to bring in some fresh faces that maybe are a little bit more mobile as well, because I think that's an element of our game that really is lacking, definitely.
I mean, yeah, to touch on, you said that this result's been coming, Mark. I mean, Bill, I was on your show the other week, and I said pretty much that we've had the luck we had in those 3 games, Fulham, Sheffield United, Villa. That's probably our luck for the season, lads. Like now we've got decisions like that VAR goal going out or being allowed. That's bad luck now or misfortune. Again, it's beside the point of the result. If I had the luck, I mean, I did have said that I think our position flattered us a little bit, 5th place. I don't think we were playing that amazingly well. We just happened to come against a team with our sort of luck in Sheffield United. We're having about as much luck as we normally have. We got very lucky with Villa, with VAR and the penalty miss. And Fulham, we scraped through. Last season, we probably would have got a draw against Sheffield United, draw against Fulham, and lost to Villa. So I'm not too particularly bothered by the defeat. It's like what Mark said, the ease that we were picked apart. I mean, this is where when people talking about Moyes 100% deserves a big long-term ironclad contract. This is where I'm saying, hang on a minute, son. Let's have a cup of tea and sit down and actually discuss this. Because now we're all saying, what the fuck was he doing? Like, what was he playing at? No, not making that song.
Negotiating table.
Yeah, get Dennis in there.
The ease of the ball going over. Now suddenly the complexion is turned on its head, and now we're like, oh, Moyes, dithering Dave. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. But this is where I think we need to keep our feet on the ground when it comes to that. When we're looking 3 wins on the bounce, 5th place. I mean, chances are Leeds are pretty much like Villa. They're pretty prone to leaking goals. They've got a couple big injuries. We'll probably go up there and we will probably get a result, if not a win now. That does not necessarily make it all hunky-dory. It's just then suddenly we'll win that game. We'll do well against Chelsea and Palace. And people again will be saying, oh, yeah, give Moyes the contract. He deserves it. But then we'll have another bad result and another bad result. And this is where I'm saying the contract talks, leading it into another subject, the contract talks need to really wait until February time. So we got a clear picture of where we're sitting.
Of course, mate. That for, just outside of any results in general, I think we should sit down at the end of the season and talk about Moyes' contract rather than halfway through, because I just don't think there's that necessity. I know his contract is up, but I think we need to give it a little bit more time. And I think like what we've touched on, I'm willing to give Moyes that time because in the games like Aston Villa, he has shown he can change it. Something I didn't think he had in his locker. At the same time against Man United, he didn't go more defensive when he should have done. This Leeds game for me is, again, another thing to see from him. If we go and press Leeds United, I'm telling you now, we are going to leak goals because that team just press and they can get in behind. And I think be conservative. It's all right, David. You don't have to create chances all the time, but obviously be clinical when you do. So we'll see. He's got some tough games coming.
That implies that he's able to set up differently based on the opposition. Because if he had set up differently for United that he did against Villa, we could be having a different result. But it's one-dimension football. It's just not quite as, bore us as Sam Allardyce is. That's all it is. But it's the same issue. One-dimension football, one tactic.
Okay.
I'm fairly relaxed about that. Obviously, we all want to see West Ham win or even get a point. If we're losing, that kind of thing. But I'm fairly relaxed about it because it doesn't matter what level of football you play, whether it's Premier League, League Two, National League, Finnish second division. It doesn't matter what level of football it is. If you're 1-0 up, that is a dangerous scoreline. And especially playing Man United, their away form was amazing. And they've been away. They've been behind in I think the last 5 wins or something. Like Everton, they were behind and won. Southampton 2-0 down, coming back to win 3-2. So obviously we want to see the team win, but it's the classic. If you don't take your chances, you're going to suffer. So I'd be more disappointed if we played badly and lost, because I thought that performance was much better than against Villa, better against Sheffield and against Fulham. So we've played better but lost. It's one of those. Like if you like cricket in terms, if you can bowl amazing, beat the bat constantly, then you get your pie chuck at the other end. You get 5 wickets. It's just one of those bits of luck.
Yeah, I agree. Like we were much better against Manchester. Aston Villa was probably one of the worst performances of the season, other than possibly that Newcastle game. I thought we were really, really good, obviously for that time period. But yeah, you're right. I feel relaxed as well. Like I feel like this is a bit of an anomaly. We've got some good results. We're up the table. 5th did flatter us massively. We're still top half. I wouldn't be surprised for us to go out to Leeds and get a result. But this table this season's so skewed. Do you know what I mean? We could be in positions for long periods of time that possibly we're not used to. So I'm still quite relaxed. I thought, Dennis, do you want to do? I thought you were going to talk about
I've said in that we're going to yo-yo form. There's going to be differences of opinion of the manager, but ultimately, my main concern for the season is that there's no intelligence in the tactics. It's just we're going to set up this way, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, well. It does alarm me that there is no plan B from the start. There's only a gambling substitution at half-time against Villa. Other than that, tactics haven't changed since Wolves. And we've had many different oppositions. We've gotten lucky against 3 of them. So
the only thing I'd say about Moyes' contract is that if we go with what Dennis was saying before, we wait until February. Obviously, I don't know what money we've got in January. But do you think that would have an impact on potential signings? Well, I want to sign for Moyes, but if he's going at the end of the season, what's the point of me coming here? Because there could be a new manager coming in.
That implies we're signing people in January, Mark.
Well, yeah.
We're not signing. Well, we might be signing Josh King. Josh King has been touted around.
I think that maybe Moyes is always going to play the same way. I don't think he's ever going to change, even if he was given, like the oil riches that like Man City and Chelsea have got. I don't think it would make any difference to him, the sort of way that he would set up. But I just think that maybe, it was disappointing. He maybe should have changed how we were set up in the second half. But I wouldn't be that upset if we were to give him another contract, even if it was just a 2-year deal, and just say it's a 1 year of a break at the end of that following season. I think maybe we might be overreacting just a little bit, but definitely he is an area that he needs to improve on. Is his in-game management, definitely.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying an incentivized 2-year contract where they sit down at the end of the first year and say, right, well, this hasn't gone well, that's gone well. You need to do this, and we'll review it again, like close to the end of the season. That's where I just think Moyes is, because he needs the carrot in front of him. You just give him a long-term deal. He's like, right, I've got this job. Let's just keep us up, keep the board happy.
To be fair, I think it's bang on that. I think Moyes will get a contract inevitably, because the thing is, the board obviously favour him. He does play in with that idea of doing, okay with very, very little money, and it is a little bit concerning, particularly with January round the corner. Obviously, there's rumours that potentially we've agreed a cut price deal for Josh King. I hope it's not a case of we're bringing him in and loaning out Sebastian Haller or some ridiculous deal like that, but which could always be the case, and that
would be a surprise.
Odds on for that to be the case as well.
But when we talk about games like Manchester United, and we talk about bringing another man in midfield, like I always look at other midfielders out there, like a John Lundstrom, who's been mentioned numerous times. Having a player like that to come off the bench and sort of pack out the midfield, we're never going to be able to compete with some of these teams with 3-man, 4-man midfield, because we're always going to get overloads. It's impossible. It's too tough. But we need recruitments, and we need players in that Moyes trusts. And I'm not sure on that subs bench too many players that Moyes looks at and says, I'll give you a run out.
No, we don't have enough legs in midfield apart from Rice and Souček. But you've got Noble, who's never been known for his blistering pace, or Snodgrass has got that energy, but he's had those injury problems. We need strengthening that. But we've needed strengthening that in that area ever since Pedro Obiang and Edmilson Fernandes have left.
I personally, I don't think we've ever really replaced Radoslav Kovac.
Oh mate, at least
You teased me up. You can't give me that opportunity, Bill. You can't give me that opportunity.
There's the open goal that we missed on Saturday, but you scored, Dennis. I'm like West Ham. Oh my days!
So obvious, man. So obvious.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Try like Paul and York, mate. Easily combining.
Nah, look, I mean, we don't need Radoslav Kovac first and foremost.
We're not that desperate. We're not that desperate.
We're not that bad to take him out of
Jack Wilshere's available.
Again, we're not that desperate.
I think Jack Wilshere still thinks he should be playing for Arsenal the way he's going around talking to everyone. So
to be fair, Arsenal's a lesser club than us these days. So
they are, mate. They are.
Where's that fishing rod, Dennis?
We're gonna have Arsenal fan TV cussing me out on Twitter.
Sounds like Adrian Damon on Talk Sport back in the day, the Daily Arsenal.
Yeah. Now look, I mean, speaking of teams that sort of are sort of falling over at the moment, Man United, you look at them last night when they just fell apart. I couldn't believe how badly they fell apart. And you kind of just think, how did we not see that out? Like, Ollie is such a predictable manager. I don't want to dig out Man United too much, but the way he sets up his teams, how he wants to play, you can see it coming from a mile away, which is why Dennis is fuming. Yeah, well,
but you take Fernandes. That's the thing. You take Fernandes out of that Man United team. They're an average side. We saw that before they signed him in January. They were mid-table, and then he galvanised their season, got them in the Champions League places.
We were linked with him a couple of years ago.
And then,
we were actually.
Yeah, who's going to pay instalments over about 30 years, though?
It was Sporting Lisbon as well. We never got it.
Tough to negotiate.
We're all papering over the biggest issue they've got there is that they paid 80 million for Maguire, who didn't have such a big price tag, and wasn't probably one of the highest earning players there. He probably wouldn't get in their first 11. He's always got a mistake in him. He's not too good on the ball, and his defending's bang average. And they paid 80 million quid. Beggars belief, really. I mean, like Dennis just said, you pick Fernandes out of that team, and it's pretty average. And that showed in the game at the weekend. It was quite literally a game of two halves, wasn't it? It was like playing against two different teams, and all they really did was drop Fernandes in there, and it just changed everything.
Well, that's the thing. Man United played in the first half like they did in the last two seasons against us. They were all over the place and woeful, and hence why we create those amount of chances. But unlike the previous two seasons, we didn't take them. So there we are.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like you see Maguire as well. Like they even did him for pace when he nicked the ball off him and went in on goal. I mean, that's the kind of thing you look at and think, I wish he just put that away. But Let's get on to the Leeds game, lads, because this is an interesting one. I've done my homework on them. Obviously, Bielsa with his kind of passing possession philosophy, his quick transition. They're a tough team. They are really tough, and they're going to put some serious pressure on us. I mean, we've seen in recent games, David Moyes, when we always start fast, and actually, to be fair to us, a couple of seasons ago, we always complained that we just switched off for the first 10. With Moyes, we seem to be on it right from the get-go. Is it something going into this game that you think, should we press Leeds and try and catch them early, or should we set up disciplined and let's see what they do to us and hit them on the counter?
Well, I'm excited about the game. When I'm looking at watching games as a neutral, I look out for the Leeds games at the moment because they've definitely got a little bit of this. If you score 3, we'll score 4 mentality about them. They've got a high press and they're always trying to get at you, aren't they? And create opportunities and score goals. You don't really see them sitting back and defending. So I mean, I think we have to get out and get at them, and they can be defensively exposed. I'm sure. I'd love to see Benrahma play. I think if you're going to start with Haller, which obviously we are, we're just not getting enough balls into him. I mean, Owen created a load of opportunities for himself at the weekend just gone. Fornals, again, created opportunities and missed, but not too many opportunities got into Haller. And Benrahma, I think, is sort of two-pronged there. First of all, he's going to get more into Haller. We've seen his deliveries better than Bowen or Fornals' delivery, isn't it? And secondly, he knows how to put the ball in the net, which we're obviously lacking with Fornals at the moment. I mean, I certainly wouldn't sit here and slag Fornals off because I think he's done a good job and he works hard, but it's starting to get to unforgivable territory, the amount of sitters that he's missing. And you just think Benrahma offers a lot of what Fornals offers, but he will bury those chances. So I'd like to see us set up with him instead of Fornals this game.
I'm slightly concerned this isn't going to happen. And every single time I do a preview, I say, go on, put Benrahma in for the part. And I've just given up now because I know Fornals is definitely going to play. But you're right, mate. And listen, what impresses me about Benrahma is he's happy to stick to that wing sometimes. He's happy to come in and pick the ball up and try and play with Haller. And you saw a little bit of that against Man United where he was trying to create things. And for me, and I again, like you, Jeff, I don't want to dig out Fornals because his work rate and even in the earlier games, he was very impressive. But the amount of sitters, the sloppy passes from Pablo Fornals, it's getting to the point where at what stage does Moyes say, look, mate, we've got Benrahma on the bench. He's performing well when he's coming on. We need to at least switch this up and maybe bring you on later if you want to sit back and be a bit more disciplined.
Yeah, I mean, we'll take him out for a couple of games, do him any harm. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of pressure on him. And every sitter that he misses, that pressure is going to increase. Just because he misses a game or two doesn't mean he's out the side. He's benched for good. But you've got to rotate the side around. And I think we're relying heavily on 11 players at the moment when we've got some decent options now. We've seen that Moyes didn't have a lot of faith in the guys he had on the bench and he wasn't making changes. But now all of a sudden, he's got Benrahma there. He brings him on at half-time on the 60th minute as opposed to the bloody 87th minute that he was doing before with other players. He's clearly got faith in him. So, I mean, it's time to start rotating it around because we're starting to look a little bit like one-trick ponies at the moment.
Especially with a lot of fixtures coming up.
Yeah.
There's got to be rotation by all the clubs. So, and we're included in that.
And the problem is as well, because Haller is probably the main man to start in all of those games. We haven't got anyone else to bring in unless he maybe plays Bowen in like a bit of a false nine or Yarmolenko who's now fit, which is a bit risky again because he can't stretch defences. I think when you've got Haller up front, you need two players either side that have got pace and that can be direct and getting behind. And unfortunately with Fornals, as good as actually I think he is sometimes on his final pass trying to bring the ball in, he's just poor. He can't carry the ball quick enough. And we can't get away from it. His pace, particularly when he's up front, for me, isn't good enough at times.
If you're gonna play Fornals, for me, you've got to change the shape. It's the only way that he's going to work. You've got to play him as a number 10. You can't have him playing as this outside left or inside left, whatever you want to call it, left midfield, whatever. Yeah. It's obvious that he's not working, especially as you've just mentioned, Corey. You go back at looking at Haller at Frankfurt. He had the two guys that were up there alongside him who were prepared to run in behind him, and he didn't have to do any of that. Whereas when you look at West Ham Twitter on a Saturday afternoon and Haller hasn't closed this player down or he hasn't done that, well, have you ever seen him play? That's not his game. It never will be his game. So you've got to get that out of your head. So I think that definitely 4 now is got to be considered to be dropped. As I mentioned before, apparently he's missed 6 big chances now. I'm not sure if that's including the one against United that he hit the post, which I thought was a little, if that's being.
That was the header. The header was the big chance.
The header was the one.
That was the big chance. The one that he's hit the post, I think, is a little bit
unlucky. That one
through the players.
Yeah.
Counting that in the stats. But as we've said before, and we've got something ridiculous coming up in the amount of games. I know it's the same for all teams, but looking at sort of playing devil's advocate with the rotational thing, we're playing the 27th and then the 29th of December. Surely we're not going to play the same 11 players on both of them games, unless of course injuries. But looking at it from this far out, and also as well, we mentioned Hilaire's the only striking option. This goes back, then it makes a complete and utter mockery of Moyes picking Antonio in the Villa game. I think I said at the time that if Hilaire had put that Antonio performance in, West Ham Twitter would have had a complete and utter meltdown. But because it was Antonio, he got away with it. And now we're in a position where the striker that suits Moyes' system is now injured. We don't really know how long for, I don't think, do we? We're looking at probably about another 4 or 5 weeks.
No, someone reckons for Antonio 21st, but I said this to Jeff and Dennis beforehand. Too early, mate. It's too early. I wouldn't even risk him even probably this side of this year.
Yeah, and the Seb Haller hat trick is coming. Don't worry so much about it. But honestly,
they've got to work on getting the ball to him. Like they don't create enough for him. I mean, I know none of us are going to put him in our starting 11, but if they had Snodgrass out on the left, his delivery, he's brilliant. Getting the ball across. He's going to get 2 or 3 onto Haller's head every game. Obviously, that's not the answer here, but we've got to do something to get more crosses into the box for him, or have a number 10 behind him that can find him with little through balls. But at the moment, he doesn't get the service. It's no wonder he looks a bit dejected.
No, and that chance on Saturday he created himself.
Yeah.
Where he slipped over. But I think actually again the Villa game when he come on and Man United, I think his touch and his challenging a lot better. So I think Haller's actually playing okay. But again, since he's come to the club, service hasn't always been there, is it? So I think he's starting to get there. I think.
Yeah, we're seeing improvement. I mean, like for example, Lee Clayton will be really happy. He smiled when we scored at Man United. And he's got so much pressure, he's concentrating on smiling that it's probably affecting his game because, again, alleged journalists are obsessed with his lack of smiling. But ultimately, it's a case of run of games. We've seen it. He had those 3 starts for us. Yeah, against Liverpool, he was isolated. Antonio would have worked hard and got some stuff, yes, but equally, he also would have had, a bit of a lonely night. Against Fulham, he was improved. Hit the bar. Didn't quite have the end product. Against Sheffield United, he got his goal. Nearly got a great assist as well. And I think against United, if just one slip and we'd have gone 2-0 up, we'd be talking about, Seb Haller,
exactly.
Stuck us 2-0 up. Do we still lose that game 3-2? Maybe. But ultimately, we'd be having a different conversation with Haller. And I'm not having that slip automatically means he's crap. Did Steven Gerrard slip in against Chelsea, make him a terrible midfielder? No.
Well, look, we said that on air. Sorry, Mark. We said that on air about the Allaire thing. The fact that he won the ball off Maguire high up, saw him there, he took on the keeper, he beat the keeper calmly. It was just that little bit of composure. And I was like, listen, to be fair to him, the improvement we've actually seen for him week on week, you give him those times when maybe he misses. It's the 4 nows for when it's like week on week. It's like, come on, fella, we've seen it too much.
I made that joke. Could be lost to you by anyone watching. If you've seen any given Sunday, like when they used to say that Willie Beeman when he threw up, that's when he started playing well. I will keep saying whenever Fornells misses a sitter, that's when West Ham are about to turn up. I got proven wrong, but against United. But typically the game doesn't start until Fornells misses a sitter, in my opinion. That's how often it's happened.
Yeah, I was just sort of looking at Leeds as well this week, and they're such an interesting team. Like their man mark press is so weird to watch, but Bielsa's happy to give up spaces on the wide areas, and maybe it's that game where you push Soufal and Masuaku forward at times, and they've got to carry the ball to get the service into our legs. We haven't really seen too much delivery from either of them recently, and I'd like to see him in the more advanced areas and trying to get that service into him.
I actually think this game's perfect for Cresswell. We've seen how often he's got into that
Totally
sort of
agree.
left-hand side position.
Yeah.
Obviously, you just mentioned there, Corey, with the lack of almost disregard for the wide areas of the pitch that they have, Leeds.
Yeah.
I think with Cresswell's delivery, I think it's a perfect opportunity for him to be encouraged to get forward. And I think really that this is also a great opportunity to pick Benrahma because of his pace to try and make an extra advantage of that. It's all well and good having Masuaku with pace. Well, let's have another player. Let's can't just rely, because eventually the team will work that out and just go, well, we'll just go and mark him out of the game, which I think is probably quite easy with Masuaku, in my opinion. And someone's put on there now that Benrahma less than 60 minutes, 2 assists this season. You have to question what else has he actually got to do to get an opportunity from the first whistle.
Yeah, and I think listen, particularly Leeds, they'll go out to meet the ball, and I think if we attack with 3 against 2, which it could happen at times if we get that ball far up enough, you're going to need someone like Benrahma that can take on and beat a man. I wouldn't be convinced if Fornals picked the ball up that he was able to beat a man, and I think in this type of game you need Bowen, you need Benrahma, someone that's going to get him behind. And listen, we haven't seen Benrahma on goal, but from his assists, he's got real quality.
Yeah, and that's the exciting thing about Leeds. From a neutral point of view, it's been good watching them on Sky sort of this season. They're high intensity pressing. Marcelo Bielsa special. His teams always do that, but they can see chances. And they've been beaten. They're beat heavily by Leicester at home earlier in the season. So I don't see why we can't create chances, and obviously got to make sure our chance conversion is better than what it was Saturday. But yeah, if we can match their intensity, keep the score down, I don't see why we can't get a couple of goals against them.
I mean, they're set pieces. I don't know if any of you have seen Leeds from defending set pieces, but they're terrible. They can't deal with it. Someone was telling me that.
Yeah, against Chelsea, they weren't very good at that.
Well, apparently, out of 8 attempts that Chelsea had to try and get into the box from set pieces and crosses, Leeds only defended 1 successfully. And you look at who we've got: Souček, Ogbonna, Declan Rice, Sebastian Haller. That's bread and butter to us. And if you can get Cresswell high up and get decent delivery in, we should get a chance to score in this game.
100%. You've just got to take them.
I was going to agree with Bill there. I think if we can keep the score down, if we don't concede more than 1, we've got a very good chance of winning this game, because you're going to get chances. Obviously, we've got to take them, and I think Benrahma playing ahead of Fornals will definitely help with that. But either way, we're going to get the chances to win this game, and if we defend resolutely and keep the script, keep them down to 1 goal or less, then I think the game's ours for the taking. That one of the keys to the game for me is keeping Bamford quiet, because he's having a great season from nowhere. I mean, I've had him down as an average championship player his whole career, and from nowhere he's just, obviously I think Bielsa's got a knack of getting the best out of average players, isn't he? So keeping him quiet, his movement has been impeccable this season. He's finding pockets of space in tight areas, and when he does get on the ball, he's got the composure to finish it. So keeping him quiet is key, but I feel like we're going to get in more than enough opportunities to win this game. We've just got to be more clinical than we were against United.
Yeah, I think that's probably why Bamford plays, because of his movement. I mean, he's not I wouldn't say a natural goal scorer. He got criticism last season because I think he only scored about 15, 16 goals, which in a 46-game season isn't actually that brilliant for a team that got promoted. So, he has scored this season, but he's not like, say, Jermaine Defoe or Alan Shearer, 1 shot, 1 goal. He needs 3 or 4 chances to score, really. So we've got to make sure that Leeds and Bamford don't get those opportunities that obviously United got in the second half.
Well, he's in the form of his life, isn't he, at the moment? So, the form of his life, he's what's he got, 8 or 9 goals this season? He's doing well, but like you say, he does need a lot of opportunities. But the thing is, with Leeds, they do create a lot, don't they? They're always on.
That's the thing, yeah.
Trying to get the ball forward and playing with a high line. So he is getting the chances this season. I think the system just plays into Bamford's hands perfectly, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's the difference, though, isn't it? I think someone pulled up the stats. The difference between Bamford and Calvert-Lewin was the fact Calvert-Lewin literally has every chance he has, he nearly takes on, or he just needs 1 touch to get in. But you're right, lads. Bamford's movement is the problem for me. But I think we saw, if you've watched them against Arsenal, Leeds had 24 attempts and they couldn't score. And they really do rely, in some instances, on Bamford to make that move in behind.
Yeah.
You just
and
feel
Arsenal down to 10 men, weren't they, as well?
Yeah, exactly, mate. And it actually suited Arsenal because the minute they sat back and Leeds had to try and break them down, Leeds couldn't do it. And the way we've been critical of us against United not being clinical, I don't think Leeds have been particularly clinical this season.
No, I think when their failed attempts at coming up the season before last, that they were bombarding teams desperate to win games because they were a couple of points shy of where they wanted to be, but they were in touching distance, weren't they? They're bombarding teams, but they just couldn't get the ball in the net. So yeah, they are a team that seems to create a lot, and like you rightly said, they need a lot of opportunities to nick a couple of goals. So like I said, if we can keep those opportunities down, I think the game's ours for the taking.
Yeah, we've got to match their physicality. I think they must be top of the table. Corey, you probably know this. Top of the table for sprints and running stats for the season. Or if not, they're right up there. So if we can match their intensity, running off the ball, we weren't exactly fantastic defensively on Saturday, but if we get back to how the defence have been most of the season and be clinical, then I don't see why we can't get a win up there.
I've got to be honest, I've never seen anything like a Bielsa style of football. Like, they have to, I don't know on their fitness, but he's asking them the whole team have to press, and their fitness levels to do that and to do it well have got to be top drawer. And I think against Chelsea, you saw Chelsea match them. And when they get matched a bit, they sort of go, we can't get certain positions and create certain spaces. So it is possible, but obviously I wouldn't advocate for West Ham trying to press Leeds. I
think that's probably...
It's a different Leeds to what we remember. I mean, no more dirty Leeds or anything like that. Their Bielsa ball is something different. It's a completely different animal, and I don't fancy our odds going toe to toe with them. If I'm honest with you, if we're going to play them, we're going to have to, as you say, look to pick our spots. Pretty much play how we play to our strengths under Moyes. Sit back and get them. I mean, there's a great point made by comment James Gunn. Is that we've won more games with Haller up top than Antonio. And that is something that, thank you, James. Thank you.
He's made his night.
Although it does come out a bit negative, I personally think the Leeds game, I think this is almost the perfect game for how we set up against Sheffield United and Fulham. In that, for example, they didn't press, whereas Leeds will, and we could see. I'm going to eat my words on Friday when we turned out 5-1, but we could quite easily see a very good, very very flattering scoreline, possibly.
I mean, I'm going to ask you, lads, just in terms of, obviously we touched on Patrick Bamford. Is there anyone else in that Leeds side? I think they've got Click in there. You like Harrison? Yeah, Phillips is some player.
It's obviously Phillips. Costa's quite good. Helder Costa.
Rodrigo as well.
I actually fear for us a little bit on Saturday, just because I feel I'm not convinced that we'll be able to match Leeds in terms of their running, especially if Moyes decides to try and, a little bit like we've discussed before on the show. You think back to the Tottenham game, the way that he tried to go in with a high press. If we play like that, then you can kiss goodbye to it, because I think that they'll just run and they'll have a field day, even though, obviously, as we've said already, a couple of the comments here about Bamford and the amount of chances that he misses. I think our best way is almost to play on the counter, and again I go back to it, and I think that means really that we need to bring in Ben Rama to make full effect of that. We've got a terrible record at Leeds historically. I know, obviously it's a bit different now, obviously, and everything. But you go back and look at the stat. It doesn't bode well for us. And I want West Ham to win, but I'm not that confident at all. As I say, I feel that if we try and go toe to toe with them, which Moyes, I think seems to sometimes have that in his head that he needs to go and do that.
Yeah.
Then I think that we could be in for a very, very long. Well, it could be a terrible Friday night, to be perfectly honest. I think the Leicester game. I think the Leicester game might be a good template for us to try and match, because they had pacing behind. Vardy barely had a kick all game. We sat up in the low block. We haven't got the quickest defence, so I think we need to defend deep, because we defended high against Spurs in that first, but especially that first 30 minutes, and we're 3-0 down. So, this pace of Son, and I think it might be Bergwijn as well, they were just ripping us to shreds. So, and we saw that in the second half against with Rashford and Greenwood with their pace up front, and Martial. So, I think if we sort of defend deep and then hit them on the break, and that feeds into what the lads have said about playing Ben Rom with his extra pace, we're going to need that, I think. So, if we defend high and try and squeeze the game, they're just going to destroy us, I think.
Yeah, I'm worried about Phillips, if I'm honest, lads, because I think I saw last week they were playing Dallas as a bit of a holding player and Phillips as an 8. And I was thinking, okay, I can deal with Phillips pressing us. But then, so I was thinking maybe like Fornals can get space in behind Dallas. I can't see if Fornals starts getting him space with likes of Phillips, because Phillips, what he'll do is he'll just slot in there with the 2 centre-backs, and it's going to make it difficult for us. And I am slightly concerned West Ham might not be able to get the better of him.
Yeah, I saw Jamie Carragher's really good analysis when Leeds played Everton, and Phillips just held all the space, and Doucouré and his midfield partners, they couldn't get near Phillips, and his passing range is amazing. So he's obviously been capped by England. So if we don't get near him at all, I think he'll hurt us.
Can you just imagine what it's going to be like?
Don't even go there.
Before I say this, I really like Leeds, but can you just imagine if they win and like Phillips has just ever so slightly better statistics than Declan Rice after this game? We're never going to hear the end of it. Phillips could sign for Man United in January and they would still be going on about it. Yeah, but in that game, he showed up Declan Rice, didn't he?
But Declan Rice has a habit of turning up in these. Like, I remember against that Newcastle game when Newcastle tried to compare him to Longstaff, and then Rice turned up.
Yeah.
I was like, we never heard about him again.
At least with Phillips, there is comparisons and debate. There is no debate between Declan Rice and Longstaff. I'm sorry, Newcastle fans.
No, not even.
You've given them too much ale.
They're not even fit to lace his boots to Longstaff, brothers. Not even close. I mean, if Phillips is going to play as a number 8, I know this probably goes against what Moyes does a little bit, but I would just tell Rice, wherever he goes, follow him and just make his life hell for the 90 minutes and stop, because he's key to the whole way that Leeds play, Phillips, especially if he's moved forward another 10 yards away from that holding role that he's played a few times this season. That's I don't think Moyes will do that. Because I think that means that he would have to have a change in his shape, and I don't think he's going to do that. But that would be one way that I would certainly look at trying to stop him from playing.
Yeah,
another Leeds player that hasn't been mentioned, and he probably doesn't get mentioned enough, is their keeper.
Meslier, very good
saves. Absolutely outstanding.
He makes some good saves, but he doesn't fill me with any confidence whatsoever.
He's young and he'll make mistakes. What my point was he's made some outstanding saves, but again with the set pieces.
Put crosses in the box, test him.
I reckon crowding the box for corners and free kicks could be our bread and butter against Leeds.
Mate, I honestly think West Ham are from the set piece point of view, we're the perfect team because we've got late runners in there. You see Souček for the Man United goal just peeling off. Leeds just get exposed near post, far post, in the centre. We could be too physical for them, and even if we're not creating clear-cut chances, we can just get a corner or a free kick. I fancy us,
especially with Ogbonna and Cresswell's delivery. So I don't see. Yeah, we've got to make the most of those opportunities when we do get them.
We've got a secret weapon on the bench as well, Craig Dawson, who loves scoring from the corner. So scored against us.
Has Craig Dawson actually been on the bench this season? I don't know. I can't remember if he has or not. But
he was on the bench against United. I could be wrong. But I thought he was on the bench.
Yeah, I think he's been Diop on the bench, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Or Johnson. Yeah.
Now, one player
is Frederick still injured, by the way?
I think he's fit. For some reason, I've heard rumours saying they want to sell him in January, and obviously, in that sense, it make more sense to keep him out of the squad so he doesn't get an injury, so they can sell him. But by all accounts, he hasn't even had a sniff, has he, since Soufal come in?
Well, that does make sense for Sullivan's business model of, we signed this Czech guy, he's done all right. We don't need Fredericks at all. He'll never get injured. Soufal will never, ever get injured.
But maybe Moyes'
Good impression, Dennis.
Yeah, he's been working on it.
I've perfected my Sullivan for many, many, many years. Normally, I know is normally haggling, so that's a non-haggling Sullivan there.
Okay.
I know Fredericks. We all agree probably wouldn't be in our first choice starting 11. It's all well and good if we do get rid of him, if that's what's going to happen. But have we actually got anyone through? I know we've got Johnson, but we're leaving ourselves short, especially on the other side with only having Arthur as a left wing back.
Well, this is what I was going to say.
Not Ben Rama at left wing back either.
Yeah. Let's not ever go there again, because he was getting a couple of chances in behind against Villa when he was sort of playing a little bit deeper.
Yeah, it just goes back to the pragmatic. Like, there's no pragmatism in our transfer policy, and the attitude is, if we've got a player and he's doing well, we can afford to sell this player. And then that player will get injured, and suddenly we've got, Ben Johnson potentially got great potential, but now I think Fredericks would, for certain games, might need Fredericks on the bench if it does go pear shaped. Whereas if we then sell Fredericks and let's be honest, we're really crap at selling people, so we'll probably sell him for what, like $1.5 million.
Yeah, I was going to say $1 million or $2 million. Yeah,
and they'll say, "Look, we made a profit on
him." Someone in the Premier League. There's nothing on Fredericks. I think Fredericks worth a lot more than that. But it's just, we sold Sam Byram for like £500,000. And we bought him for like £3. So we'll sell him undervalued to someone probably, lower Premier League team where we'll go and do a bit of business.
If it's good,
and then what happens? Soufal will tear his ACL, and then you've got Ben Johnson, and you better pray he doesn't get injured or get a suspension, because then who plays right back? Mickey Antonio? Probably not.
Johnson's had injury problems as well.
Yeah. He's had injuries. So as well, I think selling Fredericks actually would be a bit of a mistake.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if it was something to do with wages, because Johnson, even though he's not a natural wing back, he's obviously on a cheaper contract than Fredericks. He's on about 40k. I wouldn't be surprised the logic should be keep your Fredericks, keep Soufal, and let Johnson go out on loan or to get some experience if we've got cover in that area.
I think it makes perfect sense. If Johnson's not going to play, let's get him out on loan. He's try and find him a championship club. I don't see the point, of all due respect to League One or League Two teams, in going down there. Let's get him in the championship at where he's playing. Maybe gets 15, 20 games or whatever. And then I've been quite impressed with him in the games that he has played in. He looks okay. Obviously, he's got that naivety of youth in there, but let's get him a run of games somewhere. It's clearly not going to happen for us this season for him. So let's get him into the championship and then see what he can do, and you can get a much better opinion, I think, of him then from that.
Look at how well Ngaki has done in the championship for Watford. So
he's more than good enough for the championship, Johnson. More than good enough. So.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
it'd be great to see him. It'd be great to see him have a consistent run of games, wouldn't it, though? And if he comes back, I think those mistakes we talk about sometimes, because of his youth, if he could sort of nail them out and smooth it out in the championship, comes back up, it'll be great to see him back, because for me, long term, he's definitely an option.
Well, last time we
100%.
did that, we loaned someone out to the championship and they did really well, and we couldn't wait to see them play for us. What did David Sullivan do?
Do you know what's interesting?
He forced it.
Google.
Yeah, so going to the championship is basically this is like David Sullivan thinks he's the mafia, and that's like his kiss of death. He's like, you don't know when it'll happen, but you're being sold.
You know what's interesting about Grady? I was watching West Brom the other day, and he flits in and out the first team. Grady, Bilic sometimes doesn't fancy him if he wants to be defensive, and it's such a shame to see a player that, listen, I would have loved to have seen play for West Ham regularly, be even used for West Brom sparingly.
Yeah, maybe he's not quite as good as what we all thought. Everyone was up in arms when we followed in the summer. I think we were treating him, and I include myself to this to an extent, that he was like some sort of messiah for us. I still think it's the wrong decision, because I think that obviously we've been going on about 4 hours not playing, and we're talking about getting more pace into the side. Certainly Grady would have fitted that. But you can't have another manager. How many managers are wrong about him? I know Billy played him in the Championship last year, and I know that West Brom have got lots of problems. But they can't keep the ball out the back of the net, but not scoring it either. And to keep one of your better players, certainly one of your better attacking players, out of the team, doesn't quite add up to me. But I still think that was a bit of a strange decision to get.
Yeah, I think Grady, in the way the way we've played, just the confidence at times. I think he'd thrive in our team rather than a struggling West Brom team with no confidence.
Yeah, and he's direct. He beats players. Like when we sit here talking about we need someone with pace. Imagine having. I suppose the argument is you've got Ben Rama now, but if Ben Rama's not starting, that's kind of a big question, doesn't it? So
I do feel ultimately Ben Rama's an upgrade there. I think he's a couple of seasons more advanced in his development, and with a paper thin squad, we need players who are ready to go now and that can start performing instead of maybe another season of Grady getting up to speed with the Premier League. Finding his feet. We haven't got time for that in the position we're in. So I think Ben Rama, certainly, I appreciate he's come from the Championship, but he is a more experienced, more established professional. And I think he is an upgrade. But like Mark said, ultimately, it was a strange decision in the first place to let Grady go, and I probably wouldn't have done it. But it's worked out okay with Ben Rama coming in.
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully West Brom get relegated and we just get him back on a cheap deal and we make some money on it. That would be the idea.
David Sullivan's going like that.
Someone's going, this is exactly what I wanted.
Yes, this is my master plan.
Yeah, and you know what happened then? That will be the time that, HMRC go, well, money laundering. And David Sullivan finally gets it.
It does. It would absolutely smack.
The fans get what we want. We get the player back, but then ultimately there's no transfer window because we're given a fine, and that's David Sullivan's next excuse: get Diangana back. Sell him fine for a couple of million, and get a phony fine. The fine is actually 200 grand, but he tells everyone it's 25 million. And then there's no transfer window. That's next summer's excuse. This summer was COVID. Next summer is a phony tax. And then after that, I think Jack Sullivan or someone there'll be a phony kidnapping like in The Simpsons.
You really
that could be a whole new prediction show. What's our excuse going to be this window?
I will touch on it, and we have kind of touched on it. This idea that we're going into January with a lack of money, and then you see obviously the idea that maybe we've agreed a deal with Josh King. Does it worry you that if we have agreed a deal with Josh King, that someone, Fredericks, Allaire on loan, hopefully not, is on their way out to finance that?
Absolutely, because balancing the books and stuff like that. Like when people go on, I said this the other day before the United game. People talk about, Martin and Snodgrass are not going to be given a new deal to save us money. What little money that is, which probably combined about 70 grand a week. When has that ever gone on wages? So gone on transfers. Sorry, saving wages. We hear about we saved this wage with Carroll. We saved this wage with Nasri. We're saving these wages with Wilshere. When has that ever resulted in a decent window?
Yeah,
never. So there's going to absolutely balance books. We'll sign King for like 6 odd million. We'll sell Fredericks and loan out Allaire, and then King will get injured, and we'll go, oh no, what have we done?
Yeah, you know it.
I wouldn't have a major problem if we're to sign King if it means selling someone, as long as it was someone that played a similar position to him.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at players that are currently on the periphery, really, and that's Yarmolenko and Land. I'm not saying Lanzini should be sold, but they would be guys that I'd be looking at because they sort of play in a similar position. I know he can play centre forward as well. I wouldn't want to be looking to offload, other players in other areas that King's not competing for. That makes sense to me.
The worry about King actually, and what I've heard is Bournemouth are keeping him out the side to keep him fit to sell him on. But how match fit is Josh King going to be? And obviously we've seen Moyes' tendency to sometimes throw players in there. We throw Josh King there. By the way, he's versatile. He can play on that left hand side, can play up front if he needs to. Does he then get an injury? That's a massive concern for me if we did bring him in and throw him in at the deep end.
And most of his goals are penalties as well. So it's his overall game we'll be buying him for, not necessarily goal scoring finesse, in which he's going to need the fitness for.
Yeah,
so,
Moyes doesn't. He took a while to get Bowen in the side. He's still not got Ben Rama in the side, so he doesn't. I don't think he's too trigger happy chucking guys straight in. Obviously, Soufal is the odd one out there, but that's because we were so short. He was signed as a match fit player ready to jump in, but I don't think Moyes will rush King in if he brings him in, assesses him, and he's not A, match fit, and B, clued into our systems and how we play, I think Moyes will take his time because that's what he does have a tendency to do.
Yeah, ideally, we'd literally be sitting here with Aller, King, and Antonio, and we'd have some really decent options across that front three that we could sit there and say we trust Moyes to bring him in. The only worry is if, we've seen what he's done with Aller before. The minute Antonio's fit, he's put him out. I just hope it doesn't get to the same because we've seen he wanted King, didn't he? He wanted King over Ben Rama, so you kind of think, if you're led to believe the rumours, so you do kind of look at that and go, oh, hopefully not. But you are right, Jeff. He has done it a few times where you still got Ben Rama sitting on that bench. So it might be a couple of months before we see Josh King at all. Right. Let's get your score predictions, lads, as we always do to end the fans' voice. I'm going to come to Dennis first. Something nice and positive to leave us with, Dennis.
I'll be honest. I'm going to go one or two ways. I'm going to go with a relative shithouse 2-0 win where we soak up the pressure and get up on the counter.
Yeah.
Equally, this could quite easily be a ding-dong. Like, look at their game against Liverpool. I'm not comparing us to Liverpool, like, scoring capabilities, but where it gets really open. And also, like, when we played Sheffield United towards the end, when they started throwing stuff at us, how open it was down the middle, I reckon this could be quite a high-scoring game. So I'm going to go we're going to either soak it up or shithouse it, or both teams score draw, but something ridiculous, like 3-3.
So you're sitting on the fence?
I'm sitting on the fence. It's what I do. It's what I do for a living, mate.
Oh, okay.
So it's my life. I live on the fence.
All right, then. Well, whatever result it is, it's kind of gone quite broad. Jeff, thoughts on Friday?
Well, I think that the Leeds side is the best likeness, we've come up against this season is Leicester, and we thumped them. So I think we're going to carry that forwards, and I'm going to go 3-0 to West Ham.
I'd love that, mate. I'd love that. I love the optimism as well.
Yeah,
I think for me, ultimately, it depends how Moyes sets up. If he tries to go toe-to-toe with Leeds, I think you can forget it and we will be on a big hiding. If, as Jeff just said and we said throughout this, if we set up against Leicester, then I think might have a better chance of winning. But I fancy Leeds, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, boo. Okay. Phil, folks.
Yeah, I think both teams will score, mate. I think I fancy us to score against their defence with their movement and then pressing from the front. I think might sneak a couple passes, so I'm going to go 2-2.
Oh, lovely. Scared the life out of me when I watch it. My thoughts are, it's way too optimistic. I hope Moyes don't try and press Leeds. If he doesn't, I think we can get maybe a 1-0 or a 2-0. And I think it might be a little bit more comfortable if you set up. If he likes to do his press game and try and get the serves up to Aller, maybe there'll be risks in behind. Bamford could score. It could be 1-1. But I can't see it being too open for Leeds to beat us, if I'm honest. I think we'll get either a draw or a win out of this game.
Hopefully so.
Yeah, exactly.
You're agreeing with me then?
Yeah, but I'm okay. I was sitting a bit on the fence there. I'm going to go 2-0. No, 2-0. I'll go up there. If it goes
there we are.
In a way, you're still agreeing with me.
No. Yes, true. All right, let's move on. Anyway, let's end it now. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Cheers to the guests as always. Great stuff tonight, lads. Thank you very much. Make sure you like the stream. It helps. If you're new, subscribe. I'll be back this evening. I'm going to do a bit of a game changers video on a Leeds game. And then, of course, we've got to watch along on Friday. Kickoff for us starts at 7 with build-ups, score predictions like we've just given, and a little bit of analysis. So until then, everybody, take care.